All right, welcome everyone to Gathering of the Green Teams, Session 2, How to Leverage Green Teams for Environmental, Social, and Governance Metrics. We are so happy that you could join us today. I hope you were in our fabulous first session, but if not, there's still so much good Green Team information to listen to here. This is the 8th annual Gathering of the Green Teams, but the first time the event has joined part of the Municipal Green Building Conference and Expo, which is now in its 19th year. And this is the first time either event will be held fully virtually. So thank you so much for rolling with the punches as we deal with this whole new interface. Please use the chat boxes either in Zoom or preferably in the Whova app to ask any questions, and I will read those out after the presentation so that we can have a little bit more engagement. We are really happy to establish this partnership between USGBC LA and the Gathering of the Green Teams, which has been hosted by our fabulous utility partners. It's great to have all this green content under one roof. And here we are going to talk about ESG metrics. And this has become an increasingly important part of evaluating companies. And we are thrilled to have some experts on this subject to speak with us today on how they tackle this topic within their organizations. I would love to introduce the fabulous Holly Hill, who will be moderating for us today. Holly is a senior sustainability advisor at Southern California Edison, where she leads sustainability efforts across the utility. She drives cross-departmental initiatives to embed and execute sustainability at SCE and to ensure operations adoption of SCE's Pathway 2045. Prior to SCE, Holly held leadership roles in sustainability and green building at engineering, architectural, and consulting companies and began her career at IBM, ensuring environmental compliance. Holly is also the fabulous chair of USGBC LA Board of Directors. Thanks for moderating today, Holly. Can't wait to hear it.
Thanks, Becky. A lot of undue fabulousness there. All the, I will say our keynotes did a tremendous job, so kudos to them for being fabulous. I want a little bit of clarification on the intent of this panel. I have been a sustainability professional for quite some time, and I'm really seeing, or just witnessing kind of the disconnect between what green teams are doing from a grassroots level at companies, and then how that correlates to what has to be done at a company and an environmental, social, and reporting governance level. And so the intent here was really to bring people together to help understand how we're bridging that gap and be sure we're not doing divergent activities. Far too often we see a lot of teams with great ambition and great ideas, but in fact, it doesn't really help what the overall company strategy is doing, and it might in fact undermine it. And so what we have here is a great panel of professionals who are leading green team efforts at the company, and it's really parlaying into valuable, quantitative, tremendous work for the company corporate-wide. And so that's what I wanted to bring together today, is understanding and bridging that gap of how we get the groundswell and employee engagement and capitalize on these huge employee bases to actually contribute to green and corporate sustainability across the company. So thank you everyone for coming today. I'm going to read our bios of our panelists here. Adam Duvendek is the Vice President at AEG for Dignity Health Sports in Carson, California. He has helped the outdoor stadium become ISO 14001 certified. He has also played a major role in additional sustainability efforts at the venue, including ongoing discussions for the 2028 Olympics. Approaching the games, LA 28 and AEG will collaborate to incorporate resilient design, clean energy, water efficiency, and resource reuse. Devendek also has competed in 2 Olympics, so Adam completely blew me away in reading his bio. He is actually an Olympian here on our panel today, and he works with many local organizations targeting fitness education at elementary schools. We have Sarita here, Figueroa from SoCal Gas. She has worked at SoCal Gas in community relations as a community relations manager, directing STEM education and charitable giving strategies. She focuses her work on climate change, environmental policy, environmental justice, and how it affects our communities. Her tenure at SoCal Gas, she has held roles in public affairs, customer outreach, and currently serves as the co-chair of their Sustainability Council. Prior to SoCal Gas, Sarita worked at Wells Fargo Bank, focusing on small business banking and home mortgage loans. Our panelist today from Los Angeles Department of Water and Power is Evelina Turvalov. She is a lead utility specialist and account advisor at LADWP. She advises a number of large LA entities, including LAX and the Convention Center, on utility matters, including energy efficiency, water conservation, demand response, electrification, and sustainability. She volunteers as a Green Team Council member, and her primary interest, responsibility, and contribution is education programs and the sustainability for Green Team members. And lastly, my colleague Naveed at Southern California Edison. He is president of our Eco IQ. That is our employee resource group dedicated to sustainability. He is an operational planning advisor in customer service. He helps internal SCE clients achieve operational and service excellence. He is a Georgia Tech MBA graduate, and he has served on many committees during his time, and has recently moved to Los Angeles just last year to help SCE's clean green future. Excuse me. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining. So for today, we have a series of 3 questions. Each of the panelists will be answering in a round, and then we'll open it up to questions from the audience, as well as some supplemental discussion questions. So thank you, everyone, for joining today. We'll get started. So first, each company, will you please share your sustainability goals? Adam, we'll start with you at AEG.
Sure. Thank you, Holly, for the introduction. AEG has a number of sustainability goals which differ from venue to venue and event to event. Our main goals are targeted in the reduction of GHG emissions, use of potable water, and waste diversion from landfill. We value AEG's global footprint, but we also recognize that change happens on a local level and that everyone plays a role in environmental sustainability. We utilize a local approach in achieving our broader goals, as AEG's operations differ greatly from business unit to business unit. For example, our facilities division might have more of an impact on our GHG and water reduction goals, where our concert and touring division, AEG Presents, might be able to make a larger impact on waste diversion. So we look at those all individually. We encourage our employees to actively participate in our initiatives and constantly seek ways to inform our guests that attend our events how they can take part. We use a science-based approach in evaluating our targets. However, we realize that goals change. For example, in 2016, we modeled our GHG goals on the 3% solution, a report by the World Wildlife Foundation and Carbon Disclosure Project, which concluded that the US corporate sector needed to reduce emissions by 3% per year between 2010 and 2020. As of last year, we completely reset our goals because of the United Nations Special Report on Climate Change, which addressed the impacts, evaluating them at a 1.5-degree change. So, we believe that adopting a science-based approach and remaining nimble to making change is the right thing to do. We also recognize that it's not only our contribution that will make an impact in the fight against global climate change. This is why we've really committed to help draw attention, not only by our corporate initiatives, but really by engaging and inspiring our employees, partners, and guests.
Awesome. That's great to be able to be flexible enough to respond to the scientific community as well. So nice work.
Thank you.
All right, Sarita, how about you from SoCal Gas? Can you share your corporate sustainability goals as well?
Sure. Hi, everyone. So at SoCal Gas, we really want to continue to maintain our goal of becoming the cleanest natural gas utility in North America. So we're working on quite a few renewable projects. Since 2018, we've been adding RNG into our pipeline and blending it. It takes some time to be able to produce the quality of gas as it relates to household appliances, but we have a goal of having at least 20% renewable gas in our pipelines by 2030. We're also looking to offset the waste of solar and wind renewables generated as it converts excess renewable electricity into our renewable gas pipelines. So for example, we have a process called electrolysis that kind of helps, that breaks down the renewable electricity, and we're able to put the hydrogen into our pipelines to be able to use it seasonally. So as you know, when it comes to renewables like solar and wind, they can only really be stored on batteries for hours at a time. So when we need it as a state or as a country, it's not readily available. That's obvious right now with these excessive heat, where we're asked to conserve energy, and it's because as renewables, as the sun is going down, renewables aren't available, and so the storage may not be available too, which is essentially when natural gas helps to meet and to offset our needs. So we're looking to see how we can capture that renewable energy that's being captured by solar panels and by wind, and be able to put it into our pipeline and really just be able to use it all year long. Additionally, during sorry about that. I apologize. We also are looking to do a 40% reduction in the fugitive emissions that we have in our natural gas transmissions and distribution systems by 2030. Whenever gas or electricity is getting to its destination, there is a little bit of loss. At SoCalGas, we do have about 99.2% of our gas that reaches its destination, so the fugitive emissions are pretty low, but nonetheless, we are looking to lower them by 40% by 2030. And on top of that, we want to have zero natural gas vented during our planned pipeline work by 2030. So again, same thing. For the most part, we divert the gas into a separate pipe through a process called cross compression. However, some gas is vented currently. So we're looking at by 2030 to completely eliminate that altogether, and just to be able to reduce our emissions overall.
Great, thank you. Evelina from LADWP.
Hi,
Your
everybody.
sustainability goals. Hi.
Thank you for your interest in sustainability and green team in general. I represent the Department of Water and Power. It's the largest municipal utility in the nation. So obviously our goals are pretty, I don't know, they're for magnitude that is daunting to a lot of us. As a department, we have our share of responsibility. Our goals are set up initially, they were set up in the first sustainability plan, which was made public in 2015. But then it was further narrowed down and solidified in 2019 in the LA Green New Deal. But then for city agencies, just to, to kind of make it even more clear and achievable, we have the Executive Directive 25, and we have the 5 Zeros initiative. So just example, we have the zero carbon grid goal by 2045. We have the zero carbon buildings by 2045, zero waste 2050, zero carbon ground transportation 2050, and so forth. We have some intermediary goals to help reach all these objectives that we have. So for example, for the electrification of transportation, we have to reach 10,000 by 2022. We have to 10,000 EV chargers installed in the city by 2022, and then 25,000 installed by 2025. A few years ago, we had barely 1,000 or 1,500, just to give you an idea of how great all these goals are. Actually, for every individual who resides in the city of Los Angeles and whoever is a customer of DWP, this should be our sustainability Bible, the LA Green New Deal, because this shows the path for everybody, and this shows how the city will transform in the next decade or so. And for us, well, and for younger people, I mean, it's, well, what's 2045? That's so far ahead. we're talking here about billions of dollars in investment and capital projects that takes decades to, to materialize. So I would say that these goals are, no pressure. That's how I call it. No pressure on anyone. So this is kind of the framework of what we're trying to do at the department, and I'll touch on how Green Team is contributing to.
Great. Great. Yeah, it was great to have Lauren and Jerry. Gary try to discuss how the county and the city are working together on these. So yeah, great. Very audacious goals, if I might say so. Awesome. And Naveed, do you want to close for SCE?
Yep. Good afternoon, everyone. So excited to represent SCE today. So SCE actually rolled out these goals this year for the first time. So excited to kind of start digging into these. So our Pathway 2045, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with, that's sort of the energy that we procure and deliver to our customers. That's one of the key components of our sustainability goals, continuing to work to 100% carbon-free energy. Gender parity for senior operating roles. So we, in our 2019 sustainability report, we started benchmarking that and getting to 50%. Obviously, gender parity by 2030 is another key component. So anyone who's familiar with SCE or even works at SCE is aware of how important safety is, both for our employees as well as our stakeholders. So this is something that is actively monitored and really focusing on public and worker safeties, including our contractors. So that's something that's constantly monitored. And then one of the newer items is really looking at not only charging infrastructure across our territory, but also now SCE's internal transportation fleet. So there's a pathway to get to, a certain number of ports, as well as a certain percentage of our fleet being electrified. So that is also something that's now been benchmarked and something we're going to work towards in the future.
Awesome, thank you. And I will say the conversation of sustainability goals has really evolved over time. Originally, it was really in the environmental bucket, and now I think there's a recognition that it does cover broader topics and corporate philanthropy and safety, investments in our community. And so that massive umbrella of sustainability is really growing and demonstrating a groundswell and a shift in conversations. So thank you. As is evidenced by everybody's goals here, they're pretty broad. Okay, maybe page down. There we go. Awesome. All right. So our next question is really how does your green team contribute to these goals? We've established, these big, audacious sustainability goals for your companies, and then you have people who are really interested in the company and they want to contribute. So how are they doing that, and how are we leveraging those green teams to really contribute to the broader company goals? Adam?
Sure. So, I think it's good to start out in thinking or talking about what the green team actually is. And I think, from our perspective, AEG, and then even more granular, our venue, the green team years ago here was a small group of, motivated individuals that met on a monthly basis. And, they met, basically, and also resulting in kind of a small area of change. And unfortunately, or I should say, it had us look at it in a different way. And AEG now as a company, we don't view our green team as that small group of motivated individuals. We view them as everyone who works for our company. Everyone has the ability to make change and have an impact on our overall initiatives. And that's really how we view it here locally, but also within the company as a whole. We may still have a smaller group of people that may lead specific initiatives, or that are involved, inputting data for our monthly metrics and evaluating the ways that we're making change. But really it is the entire staff that we look to for motivation and even compliance. You know, our green team is actively engaged through a number of on-site programs that we have. And we'll talk about a few of those more or a bit later. But we're always on the lookout to find new ways to operate more sustainably. And many of the initiatives that we have implemented have come from ideas that started within our green team, our staff. You know, I think it's important, you know, or the most important way that the green team remains involved is through the benchmarking and sharing that we have across venues. You know, AEG, obviously, its largest presence is here in LA. And we have, you know, a monthly call between all the different venues on ways that each venue is making an impact or driving change. But, you know, even small ideas can have a huge result. You know, one small example of that is the creation of an AEG venues, basically material swap bulletin that, so, you know, in the events business and in the venues business, you know, there's an ever evolving use of equipment, technology, and materials that you know may reach end of life at one venue, but very useful to another venue. And you know, without that communication, we you know, the usual result would be that whatever was not needed any longer was either potentially donated, but also probably made its way to the landfill. And so by utilizing this, you know, this bulletin and this you know, board for all of the venues to communicate of, you know, hey, we have this, it's coming end of life, you know, at Staples Center, but it may be something that we need here at Dignity Health Sports Park. So I think that's one small example of a way that we've come together and, you know, found a small way to make things work well here in LA for our venues.
That's awesome. Just a quick question on that. Are you actually able to quantify the savings, the financial savings from the lack of repurchase due to that effort?
Yeah, you know, I not, you know, that's not, I'd say, an active part of that process
Right.
currently, but sure. I mean, there are other ideas that we are able to actively track and manage, and that would fall into, you know, our metrics and our overall, you know, sustainability reports at the end of the year.
Cool. Cool. Great. Great. Thank you. All right. Sarita, how about your green team contributions?
Well, you know, the green team's been around, I don't know, since 2013, 2014 or so, and we have definitely looked at our sustainability goals as a company, trying to make sure that we align. Every year we try to get someone from our corporate sustainability to give us an update on what's going on and focusing on, so that we can continue to be aligned. But it's you have to do both. So you have to not only meet your company's goals, but you also have to do what people want to do, right? What people are interested in doing, because our company goals sometimes are so large and can be so big and broad, but so it's hard to sometimes be able to know exactly what you can do as an individual. So, you know, cleanups, Earth Month cleanups are one of the things that we like to do. They're things that are fun, they can involve their families, and it kind of starts sustainability on a very, you know, on a very basic level for our employees. And so we try to have at least 5 to 10 events throughout the year. Most of them are during Earth Month, but we usually get, you know, anywhere between, you know, 150 employees to, you know, 200 employees to attend those. We also like to do what's called our Environmental Champions Initiative. So that's a program that I run through our Community Relations Department. So like last year, for example, we gave out $400,000 to 26 different organizations throughout our service territory. So Visalia to the Mexican border, Arizona to the coast, and it was all for programs related to clean air, clean energy, or organic waste reduction. And 64% of that budget went to low-income or disadvantaged communities. So our green team, our sustainability council and our green team champions really help to push that message along. So if they have contacts with nonprofit organizations, some of them sit on board, we're able to get that message across. Additionally, we do our climate adaptation and resiliency program annually. Last year, we gave out 3 grants for $50,000 each, which also helps these cities to build their climate adaptation and resiliency plans that, you know, they may not have funding to do so. And so we really want them to get on board and help. And again, Sustainability Council helps to get that message across to those different cities, because we all work in, you know, different capacities. Some are in our environmental services, but some of them are in public affairs and other organizations that have those contacts. We recently also have joined the Clean Air Day, California Clean Air Day. We're one of the presenting sponsors of that program, as I know as Edison and many others. So again, getting our Sustainability Council involved, you know, getting people to sign up. We have set ourselves with a pretty ambitious goal. Last year, we had over 700 employees and customers that took the Clean Air Day pledge, which was the most out of all of the other organizations and companies that joined Clean Air Day. And you know, it looks a little bit different this year, obviously with COVID, but we're setting up a pretty good goal this year to be able to meet our Clean Air Day goals. So we want to make sure that our employees feel that they can do even a little bit at home, whether it's, you know, maybe starting a worm bin and starting some composting, or maybe it's planting a tree, or maybe it's picking up trash, or maybe going, you know, meatless once a week, some way to be able to help meet our goals. Because at the end of the day, you know, we live in California, we really need to tackle on our climate goals, and every little bit counts.
Yeah. Thank you. I know Coalition for Clean Air has made that Clean Air Day pledge really personal, so it's great to be able to take initiatives home with you. And yes, our companies definitely have the friendly competition. we were watching the dashboard last year. We're like, oh, we lost out to them. But yes, no, well, it's great. I mean, that's the kind of motivation, and I love that, you know, we're partnering in that initiative. So that's great.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Evelina.
Okay, so I mentioned our goals, and you've seen what of a magnitude they are. And Green Team, we have 170 employees at DWP. So, and we have kind of like a semi-formal role under the Office of Corporate Responsibility. And one may think that, you know, our contribution cannot be great. However, I think we do have an impact on how our goals are being achieved. And that happens kind of like on two levels. First level is that our goals plus the utility trends that are happening now in like power and water utility world will change, or already change tremendously the way we operate. So we have a number of trainings and conversations and outreach to our members to educate, inform, and prepare about all these changes. For example, we are preparing now a training session on water quality. Just because our goal for water quality, it's such great, and it's water conservation, and it's recycled water, and it's everything. We had the training on EVs, and prior to that, water conservation per se. And so we are trying to prepare our members for the changes that are coming due to our goals. And I believe that when people are educated about what's happening in their company, they're much more receptive to the changes that are coming upon them, and they feel that they can contribute either personally, as an employee, as a manager, as you know, as whomever. So we do provide a lot of information to our Green Team members. And we do train them on a number of matters. And actually we bring in-house and outside subject matter experts to actually speak on those events. But we also want to make their participation fun, in addition to just like, you know, informing them about what's going on. So we do all kinds of contests, like the sustainability contest, and I'll show you a photo a little bit later. We do provide volunteering opportunity, which are kind of like smaller, I mean, less this year because of the COVID. We do all kinds of pilot projects within the department. Like we played, I would say played, but you know, it was very serious. But We did all kinds of like efforts on reducing paper use, increasing waste diversion and all that, just for them to feel that they can do it. As small as we are and as semi-informal the way we are, but we can have a big contribution to what our company achieves. So, and we use it as a networking opportunity in addition to everything else. And I think that increases our effectiveness at work. And you kind of have that body connectivity in everything we do at work. And it's great to have a lot of our regular employee becoming sustainability enthusiasts. So I think we have a great contribution to how our company achieves our sustainability goal.
Yeah, I think that communication piece is huge. I mean, so easily these teams and organizations can be siloed. So bridging that gap again and just communicating what those goals are and how people can embrace them is really important. So great. Thank you. And Naveed for Southern California Edison.
Yep. So I'm listening to everyone speak and I'm like, okay, yep, taking little pieces from what each person is saying. So like Adam said, right, just want to explain sort of what green team at Southern California Edison means. So we're an employee resource group. If any of you work at a Fortune 500, this is a pretty common tool. It's like groups that are made within companies to incentivize people to want to stay, right? That's sort of the purpose. And the theory behind our green team is that there's a large contingent of our employees who are passionate about environmental sustainability, and that engaging with like-minded people will make them, one, better employees and more engaged at SCE, but also more likely for them to stay. So, and then, but like what Sarita said, like people have different reasons why they do things, right? So you can't, our group is people who volunteer and self-select to join. They all have full-time jobs that they're responsible for with goals that they're expected to accomplish. This is stuff on top of that, right? So I think coming in as a leader, it's grounding yourself in where your group is. We have 476 people on our email list, but you know, they come in from different angles. So SCE itself rolled out, as we mentioned, their company goals this year. So I think historically, EcoIQ has been around since 2008. This year, I think we've really focused in on the employee engagement piece and also starting to dip our toe into the climate change and GHG emission piece, right? So engagement, like Sarita said, right, historically doing cleanups and things where you can bring your family, that's something that EcoIQ has been doing really well. I think also the education piece that Evelina was talking about, right? Different webinars and educating. We had a webinar earlier where when the sustainability goals were coming out, just educating people on, okay, what are what are the benchmarks, right? So they can ground themselves. But we've started to lean in on, okay, how do we develop people's environmental sustainability skill sets? So we're partnering with Networkers, which is the group that is focused on African-American engagement and advancement, to talk about environmental justice. Not only what the problem is and what the disparity is, but what action can we take at an individual level to help close that disparity, as well as Go Green fairs. So walking the talk, right? So even it's something as simple as utilizing induction cooking, being familiar with what that entails and how that can help improve the environment. So I'll get in a little bit later on how we're dipping our toes in the GHG emission space, but really, right, if there's 5 categories by which you can push forward sustainability at our company, our focus as an employee resource group is engaging our employees, which is historically what we're here to do, and then also starting to help baseline and improve the GHG and carbon footprint of SCE as a company.
Awesome, thank you. And I will say it's been great to partner with EcoIQ. Before it was just a kind of a touch point with the sustainability professionals at the company. And now I'm talking to Naveed almost weekly. And so just to allow for that communication and that space to coordinate efforts is really, really important. And we're able to share with executives that these employees are excited, they're engaged, and these are their contributions. And so it's just allowing for the information to parlay both from the employees up to executives and from executives down to the employees as well. So it's been tremendous. Awesome. We're going to move on to some practical examples. So what does this mean? As your employee resource groups and your your green teams are engaging, what does it mean and what are they executing on at the company that contributes to your sustainability goals? And we'll walk through some specific examples and specific projects that companies are doing here. So Adam, back to you again.
Sure. So, I spoke earlier about the ways that our ideas from the Green Team have actually come to fruition. In front of you, you'll see a couple examples that I'll talk about. On the left there is the Orca machine. It's an on-site food digester that allowed us to divert over 100 tons of food waste last year. And the search for that solution was somewhat guided by AB 1826, but also more importantly through and going back to who the Green Team is, just an employee, I think, that was in the loading dock one day after an event and saw how much food was being thrown away after an event. And I think it just shocked them and they brought it up to our attention. And so, while we drove the initiative in finding the solution, that same employee came back to us and introduced a company named Copia, which is an app-based company that allows us to donate excess food at the end of events. And it's a really unique and interesting app that utilizes Uber and Lyft drivers to come pick up that food and then take it to local shelters. So, that's one measurable area that, is obviously, we can measure the impact through not only the waste portion, but also what's donated. And that's something that we can drive our metrics on. On the right, there's another, last year we banned plastic straw use in our stadium. And that initiative was championed by a small group of employees who in the prior year had taken it upon themselves to rid the offices of single-use serviceware and basically purchase ceramic mugs and also silverware, and also volunteer in the beginning to do all the dishwashing at the end of every day. And that's kind of something that's evolved since then. And so I think, these are great examples of just, these were not people that were specifically part of a club or a group, but just really engaged employees that saw something that bothered them and took it upon themselves, and then we gave them the resources to execute.
I love it. I love it. We need this Orca in our cafeteria. Oh, for sure. Very cool.
On the next slide here, our venue, if you're not familiar, Dignity Health Sports Park here in Carson, it's a large venue. It's 125 acres. We share campus with Cal State Dominguez Hills. And, it's very common because of the size of our venue to utilize golf carts or gators to move around the facility. A few years ago, one of our employees asked if we could get a couple bikes. It was easy for me that was my sport in the Olympics, so it was easy for me to say yes. But, that just small request has grown into a full fleet of bicycles that our employees use to circumvent the venue. And, we've been able to see a drop in the use of, not only time on our materials or on our gators, which helps the bottom line, but also in gas use. It's small, but it's very incremental, but over the course of a year, we have seen a drop in our fuel use in our gators, which has been, definitely very welcome. And then you'll see in that photo on the left, I just thought I'd throw that in there. It's not just our employees. Every year we get the opportunity to host the two teams competing in the Rose Bowl game in training prior to the game. So those are a few players from Wisconsin last year that were riding the bikes out to their training before practice.
Awesome. Awesome.
And then I thought I'd leave this in. This is our crown jewel, the Galaxy Garden, our employee garden. This is something that had started a couple years ago, where we had an area of our facility that was really just ornamental foliage. It really was kind of underutilized. And we had a couple of employees that wanted planter boxes. They lived in apartments and didn't have the opportunity to grow their own produce. And we said we had the space, and now it has grown into include 1,000 square foot greenhouse. We have a producing apiary that produces over 300 pounds of honey every year. We have an avocado and citrus orchard that's almost about an acre in size. We have a small chicken coop, and we have Garden Club, and this is really anyone that works for our facility. We will provide you a box. You can come out, and Fridays, everyone takes off, about an hour or two during lunchtime and comes out, tends to their boxes. But this was driven from within. This is something that, over time, it didn't look like this from day one, but, we found the resources because our employees were passionate about it. And it's also allowed us to work on our communication piece and advocacy through the Galaxy Foundation. We've partnered with the Garden School Foundation to provide tours for local school groups to come through and really learn about where food comes from. So we have generally over 1,000 students per year come in and learn about where food comes from. And some of these kids, really have never seen that before. We would take them through, and we'd have mint growing, and we'd have them pull a sprig of mint and ask them to smell it, and they go, wow, that smells like gum. And it's like, no, that smells like mint. And and explaining that whole thing. But it's been really powerful, and just a great example, I think, of a small idea that's grown into something really special.
Awesome. Thank you. Keep us moving here. Sarita, some examples from SoCal Gas?
Well, first off, I want to say, who put me after Adam? Darn it. Those are really great examples. I am taking notes. I'm going to take this all back. I'm going to be like, wait, we got to do this. That's awesome. That is
very cool.
So cool. I'm like, we could totally put one of those gardens in our Pico Rivera site. I thought, the employees I would love to do that.
Yeah.
So that's very cool. That's awesome. Well, at SoCal Gas, we haven't had anything to that level yet. Okay, the challenge is there yet. But what we have been working on, and this has been a few years back. So as I mentioned earlier, our green team started back in 2013, 2014, when the drought was happening here in California, and so we started this pledge called the My Water Pledge, and it's actually through an organization. It wasn't our idea. It's through an organization called the Wyland Foundation. So they're a nonprofit organization that's dedicated to promoting and protecting the world's ocean, waterways, and marine life. And so they it was a challenge called the National Mayor's Challenge for Water Conservation. And so they created the My Water Pledge. So what we did as an organization is we asked our employees to log on to the website and take the water pledge, kind of like Clean Air Day, and kind of put all the things that they believe they could do to help save water. And as you can see on the slide, it shows that 508 employees took the pledge, and it resulted in, as long as they were able to meet all of their metrics, it would result into 28.2 million gallons of water saved, 1,280 megawatts of home electricity conserved, 421 tons of solid waste reduced, et cetera, et cetera. So that's something that we did to start off, and then that's what really launched our Sustainability Council, both at SoCal Gas and then also at our sister company, San Diego Gas and Electric down south. So that was really cool, something that really started to get people interested in sustainability at SoCal Gas. And then on the next slide, what we did also, this was back in 2013, 2014 as well, is we started an initiative to remove all styrofoam cups completely from all of our work locations. And so, you know, in the break room, you know, you would have those coffee cups for people to refill. They banned all of those altogether at all of our work locations. So people are now required to bring their own mug or their own refillable water bottle or cup. I know when I started in 2014, you know, the first thing that I was told was, you need to bring your own mug. And I was like, okay, that sounds weird. Okay, sounds good. But I mean, I thought this is really cool because then you wash it, you put it away, and you just reuse the next day. So as a council, what they did, you know, obviously because people don't have the water bottles or, you know, cups necessarily, or they forget to bring them from home, they started to give them out to all of our green champions throughout our service, or throughout our bases. So we have, I think it's like over like 600 green champions throughout our service territory. And so we gave those to them, and then we asked them to use it and to encourage, excuse me, their other employees at those bases to use them as well. This year, what we started doing as a council is, as I mentioned earlier, to meet lists at our meetings. So we have a meeting once a month, and so we just say, we would normally order food, so we would have like sandwiches or something along those lines, but we encouraged people, if they were to bring their own lunch, to, you know, not bring anything meat or without meat, and then whatever we would order would be vegetarian based as well. And then also encouraging our employees to use reusable utensils instead of those that are disposable. So just trying to reduce the waste as much as possible. Obviously, we don't want any more going to our landfills, just because, you know, it's not good. It's not decomposing. It's you know, emitting more than what we need to. Not to mention the dependency on all the cows. Those poor cows off the 5 freeway. I mean, they really have so much to do for us. So we really just, again, baby steps. What we're trying to do, impact as much as possible, you know, in one individual member at a time. But that's what we're working on.
Awesome.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Evelina, what are some examples from LADWP?
Actually, it's truly difficult to kind of talk about Adam, but we did have a garden. We're fully on. Okay, so we have a lot of initiatives. And all of these photos are from our internal newsletter to all our employees. So the outreach is to all our 11,000 employees that work at the department. So for example, we put together the Clean Air Day last October, where we planted a jacaranda tree along Hope Street, and we have our Chief Sustainability Officer supporting us with this effort, and we want to make it annual. So we're working now to do something similar for this upcoming October. Obviously, as circumstances, you know, allow that. I mean, but I will plant trees on my own. If that doesn't happen, I'll make sure I plant a number of trees. We're not gonna get COVID another, you know, loss. Also, Jenny, another member from the Green Team committee, you can see her in the second picture with all of us, and she's holding actually our shirt, Green Team shirt. We assisted with the, yes, that one, yes. We assisted with the lead certification of JFB, our headquarters. So we were constantly in communication, what's needed, how can we help, you know, everything. So that's why she's one of the lead on that effort. On the bottom, you'll see our recycling pilot project, and we're allowed. I did that. We have strong policies. We have the infrastructure for recycling. Please just do it. And I think that was, you know, well received, at least for the groups that we outreach to. And then here's our example of a sustainable garden. So we had the photo contest where everybody sent us photos with their organic, you know, like gardening. And Mr. Hines obviously took the #1 because the picture that he had was probably, I don't know how many pounds of vegetables, like a lot. I mean, you wouldn't need any grocery store trips. So this is just a few examples, but as I mentioned prior, we support our corporate sustainability office with everything they need. And this is just a few examples, and we'll continue.
Awesome. Oh, I feel like we're having some audio difficulty. Is that just me?
Right. So are you able to hear me?
Yes, now I can, Evelina. Thank you.
Okay. So a lot of my speech was lost?
No, just a little bit in and out at the end.
Okay. So, I mean, I'm waiting for questions from the audience if anyone has it, but we'll continue with our effort. We're fully,
Awesome.
enthusiastic about sustainability.
Awesome. And Naveed at SCE, I was going to comment, we're also having the how do you plant a tree during COVID times discussion. So similar challenges, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'll be quick. I mentioned that, historically we've done a lot of like trail cleanups and, tree plantings. And this year we dipped our toes in sort of like trying to start to baseline stuff that can be used for your total carbon footprint. So we're starting very small, but there's actually a space within SCE headquarters called Waste Not that's supposed to be used as an internal supply recycling program. We got the numbers. There were 24 boxes for the entire company sent to Waste Not in all of 2019. So once we kind of scoped out the project in the first quarter, in the second quarter, we rolled out our goal of, hey, we want to have 30 submitted Waste Not requests by the end of the year. And obviously our sort of metrics where we're going to want to increase the number of requests. We want to track, hey, what supplies are coming in and out, track the reuse percentage, right? How much of the inventory that's coming into the space is being reused. And then obviously if we could quantify any financial savings. This might be one of our questions today, but as you can imagine, COVID undercut this effort a lot because not only are employees not in the office, but the opportunity to, empty out the inventory space has even been limited because, different organizations that would normally take, donations like schools or different goodwill organizations, they're just not doing it. So that's a challenge. I imagine a lot of my colleagues would echo similar sentiment, but we're excited that once we're able to get to somewhat of a normal mode of business, that we'll be able to really kickstart this into gear.
Awesome. Thank you, Naveed. And what I was excited about this initiative is really marrying what employees wanted to do with reportable metrics for our corporate goals. So hopefully we can, pick it up as soon as COVID dies down. No pun intended. Great. Okay, Becky, do we have any audience questions?
We sure do.
Great. Okay.
Let's see. I want to go with this one first. There's a question on how do you connect and balance employees' regular job duties with their participation on the green teams?
Great question. Who's willing?
Can I start with that?
Sure.
That was something that I wanted to mention because we do have to be mindful. All of us represent utilities, three of us represent utilities, and a number of our colleagues have critical functions. They don't have the flexibility of volunteering for anything, or any of the of what we can do. So we reach out to everyone that can join us, and that's where we have to adjust our goals on our enrollment and participation. But we must not forget about those that cannot participate and somehow reach out to them as well. So that's kind of like, we must somehow engage everybody, but we have to be realistic that the engagement will have to have different shapes and forms.
Great point.
Yeah, and I'll quickly add a different approach on it. So I think if all of us are in this talk, we probably care about sustainability and fighting back climate change. But I think you also have to be strategic and why people get involved with things. So I think at SCE, right, ERGs are pretty highly visible organizations. So there's only 12 in the entire company. So the process, you get an executive sponsor. So Steve Powell, who's the EVP of operations, is our executive sponsor. We meet with him quarterly to update him on how we're doing in our goals. So I think if you can marry executive support for the organization, as well as, you know, leadership positions where people who want to put in the effort can showcase, that's another way to, you know, incentivize people, right? And to be honest, I say this all the time, if you don't care about climate change, that's fine. Just be part of the solution, right? And whatever is what's motivating you to get involved, that's perfectly fine. Just do what needs to get done. So that's one approach to it.
Thanks, Naveed. Yeah. Becky, let's see. I try to squeeze in one more question from the audience.
Okay, we have a question on if any of the panelists have experience tracking employee commute emissions in scope 3.
I do. Yeah, I mean, we're doing this at Edison for sure. We did our CARB-related survey last year. And so it was, I think we had about a 75% response rate. So we have a pretty good idea of our scope 3 emissions from our employee commute. The next step is right now we're quantifying the reduction due to working from home efforts. So yes, we're gonna start to formalize that. We are currently reporting it into the climate registry. We haven't completely drawn out that specific group and scope for our sustainability report, but we are tracking it internally and looking to report it into the climate registry as well.
And I think it's a requirement for us as well. It's just, it's not something the team would do.
That's the same here. As a requirement of AQMD,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I want to give us time to transition to our next panels. Thank you everyone for your time and attention today. It's been really informative, and I hope the audience is able to take away some actions and some tidbits for how to engage their green teams. I think a big takeaway for me is really just not to have the organizations be siloed from the corporate standpoint and your goals versus what your green team is doing. Allow for the conversation, even ask those green teams what they see as corporate goals, and bring them into the conversation. And then as much as we can, I think the opportunities for success is really to start to quantify green team efforts and how to then report them out to your stakeholders and people who are concerned about your sustainability metrics and reporting. So any other closing comments or thoughts? No?
Thank you everybody for being with us and listening to us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
And not to be
Thank
missed
you.
is Eric Corey Freed at 4 o'clock, I believe, or maybe 4:30 for our closing session. So please join the other MGBC panels today and then tomorrow for the community event as well. So, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.